Welcome to the second episode of Industry Roundup with BRS. Today's session will focus on the local tea and rubber industries. We have with us Mr. Roshan Rajadure, who is the Managing Director of Kalini Valley Plantations, Talawakale Tea Estates, and Horana Plantations. And he is also one of the former chairmen of the Planters Association of Ceylon. The national tea production for 2022 was one of the lowest in Sri Lanka's history. But now, with the availability of fertilizer, there was much hope on the revival of the situation in 2023. But 2 months into the year, we are yet to see a significant turnaround. What do you think, Mr. Rajadre, are the main reasons for this? And
Right,
when do you expect the industry to bounce back?
right. So let me start at the beginning. Tea in particular is a perennial agricultural crop where we harvest the vegetative part once a week or 5 to 6 days. So the complete stoppage of all agricultural chemical inputs had a significant impact on the continuity of production. For example, fertilizer is essential. It's not a choice. It's essential for commercial scale agriculture. Then apart from fertilizer, then we need to have weedicides, because even if you have very good crop, and if there are weeds, then the pluckers can't move and the disturbance thereof. So we'll have about 20% drop in the normal times if there are weeds. Then we have because we are a tropical island blessed with abundant rain and sunshine. We have a sort of fungal diseases because of the humidity. So we need weedicides, we need fungicides, we need fertilizer and other required essential agrochemicals. Now the complete ban on all agrochemicals was a serious setback, and this is the result that we are, how shall I say, we are experiencing, despite many advanced warnings to all the powers be, all the stakeholders about the consequences of such a illogical and unscientific decision. So this drop of crop is nothing to be surprised, because we haven't fertilized timely, adequately with balanced nutrients, and it will take a while to restore normalcy. And this was further compounded, just to go back a little, in 2015, government went and at that time stopped the glyphosate usage. So as a result, we used to get about 340, 330 million kilos of production per year. Immediately after that year, we came down to 300 billion. A combination of reasons, mainly the lack of weedicides and the weeds restricting the crop. And ever since then, we have been unable to go past 300 billion kilos. And of course, last year was the worst, 250 odd billion kilos for some decades. So that's the current situation. Now that the fertilizer is available, but only thing, cost factor. Fertilizer used to cost about say 30 rupees on a cost of production of about 600 rupees earlier. With the wage increases and such, our cost of production is now close to 950, 960 rupees, of which fertilizer component is about 220 to 250 based on the yield slab. So that is the combination. So when we apply fertilizer now, one is cost benefit and affordability. A classic case is, I am aware that in the smallholder sector, because of affordability factor, many smallholders are not fertilizing as they should. So this is going to have long-term repercussion, because without fertilizer, the crop is affected, the inherent quality of tree is affected, the bush is susceptible to climate change and pests and diseases, and then the workers who work have less productivity. As a result, there's no push or pull factor for them to come for tea harvesting, because they are getting a lesser income than they did before. So they might look for other avenues of employment. So again, crop drops. So it's a combination of reasons contributing to this crop shortfall. We are hopeful that it will be better than last year, but with whatever positive outlook, it's unlikely that we'll touch 300 billion this year.
Okay, thank you. So, moving on to my next question. Last year, despite the drop in production, it was to a large extent the industry was compensated by the steep rupee depreciation driving up the tea prices. But now, with the rupee seeing some appreciation, how do you expect the prices to behave and the overall industry to react?
Right. I think everybody is aware, and we also appreciate that the rupee in rupee terms the tea prices increased vis-a-vis the previous year. But we mustn't forget the fact that it is because that year we didn't apply fertilizer to a large extent, and that sort of took off a chunk of the cost which is not factored in. So that is number one. Of course, we are very very happy that the tea prices went up in rupee terms, but in dollar terms, we have had higher prices a couple of years back, like $4 plus. So, but at the end of the day, producers got a gain. But when the reality, in the sense that when you really apply fertilizer, again the cost will go up, and we saw a sudden decrease in the prices by as much as 200 rupees in a week or two, and we believe this trend will keep going on. So it's going to be a challenging year. While we enjoyed the high prices, while appreciating the fact that every other input has gone up three to four fold, because people outside the industry see only the price rise, but fertilizer, packing materials, fuel, energy, everything, all the inputs went up by about three to four fold. So as a result, the cost of production also kept pace with the rise in the tea prices, and margins were more or less the same. Another reason is the corporate sector. We are paying 1,000 rupees per day minimum basic wage, which is in fact the highest in the wages board. No other wages board is paying as much as that. For a static and our productivity per worker has not increased, but we have increased the wages by about 35%. Coupled with the rise in the input cost and other difficulties we had power cuts, so that impacted on the quality of production, and that has an effect on price. So we had a lot of external uncontrollable challenges, but through it all, I think the industry somewhat they came through with some good performance in the last year.
Mid 2022, we saw that the rubber prices have reached a record high level, and the rubber sector did extremely well. However, during the last quarter, we saw with the fall in prices, uh, the rubber segment has not performed very well in the plantation companies. So, is this was this price slump anticipated as a correction, or how would you explain the current situation of the rubber segment?
So as regards to rubber, we had a good ride in the first 6 months. Prices were well above 1,000 rupees, despite the fact that about 40 to 50% of all Sri Lankan rubber fields are affected by the pesta disease. That means you cannot tap, and therefore there's no production. And this again the result of the stoppage of agrochemicals. We could have prevented it at the outset, at the start itself, but the absence of any agrochemicals only helped the disease to proliferate and cover such a vast extent. So that is on the one side production, and with the drop in production, the cost of production has really gone up to about 600, 700 rupees. The shock that we got was a couple of months back. The 1,000 rupee value that we got for rubber has come down to about 500 rupees. So rubber estates are now uh, earning well below the cost of production, so incurring huge losses. Again, this has another effect because about 70% of both tea and rubber production in Sri Lanka are in the hands of tea and rubber smallholders. So smallholders, what they do is when the market is not uh, worthwhile or profitable, they leave that crop, particularly rubber, and do other work. So again, there's a further decrease in rubber crop. Even at a loss, the corporate estates has to work because they have to offer work, whether it's a profit or loss. So that's a problem that we have. But the smallholders who contribute to 70% of the rubber crop will now move away from rubber and do other work because rubber is not profitable. So again, a further reduction in the already decreased rubber crop. So I think it will take a long time to correct because of the recession and other economic problems in the consuming countries. There's not much demand for rubber gloves now. A pandemic is over. The gloves and surgical uh, equipment demand for rubber is less. Tire wastage, usage, and motor vehicles. So all those have a combined effect on the pull on rubber from Sri Lanka, and the prediction is that it's not going to be very positive. So rubber will have to go through some pain until we recover and come back to some level of normalcy or break-even level. That's the situation on rubber. But in the meantime, pesta diseases is running rampant, and how shall I say, uh, more and more areas are getting affected by pesta in the absence of a suitable, effective weedicide, fungicide.
So, as an industry veteran with many years of experience, what would you name as the main catalysts and the key risks for the plantation industry in Sri Lanka?
Well, may I put it like this? Now, tea, 95% of our tea is exported. So, we are basically dependent on the supply and demand and export markets. There is no going away from that fact. So, we have to be globally competitive in terms of quality because we can't compete in terms of price. Now, almost the same quality of tea is available in the world market for $2, whereas ours is $4. But our the appeal for Ceylon tea is our quality, differentiations, uniqueness, sustainable practices, and our social care. So there is some appeal for Ceylon tea because of its uniqueness in these areas for the moment. And we are the world's largest orthodox manufacturer. So there we have some sort of a strength there. But it's not going to last for long because we know India and Kenya focused on this orthodox sector because they see the high prices that Sri Lanka is obtaining, and we are going to have very stiff competition, and we won't be able to compete in that area because of our high cost. So, talking about tea, smallholders are having a huge challenge because average size of a small holding is about 60 perches. So that's his like a 1 day's work, or that's his subsistence. So if you don't fertilize, if you don't have agrochemicals, then his production is going to go down and he's going to be in a difficult situation. So the government must come in and put in a system, a methodical and efficient system where the smallholders will get some fertilizer and settle that fertilizer cost gradually over time in 3 or 4 installments so that he can bear that cost. So that is a scheme. And I also strongly believe that there should be an insurance scheme for these 500,000 tea smallholders. In the corporate sector, we have 100,000 workers. We need to definitely go away from this 150-year-old, very archaic colonial era wage system that we have been talking about it for 10 years. And successfully, we are adopting a revenue share model even in the RPC sector where the workers are having flexi time. They can go to the field and pluck their required output in a shorter time than 8 hours, hand over the leaf, and if they are willing to earn more, they can sort of pluck more and get more. And a lot of pluckers are earning as much as twice their usual salary through the system. So we need to very fast migrate to this revenue share model in the corporate sector while having a social security net for the smallholder sector. In terms of rubber, of course, again, a lot of rubber that we produce is consumed locally for value addition. So we hope that then local rubber products have an export market, export potential. So the global economy must be strong and resilient for that to be absorbed. So it works backwards. So we hope that the global economy is strong and vibrant so that they have a demand for these consumer products for which the local manufacturer still source our rubber. Already they can import rubber from other rubber producing countries at almost half the cost that Sri Lanka has. Again, it boils down to our labor productivity. So that is another area. Other than that, the other risk is, of course, climate is a constant challenge for us. We have to face it in agriculture. But we hope that the government's agricultural policy is consistent and that they will not take ad hoc decisions without consulting the stakeholders or the practitioners or the operators. Those are the challenges we see. Of course, the unsettled global economic conditions is always a challenge because, particularly for tea, because 95% we export, and every dollar we earn from tea, 90% of that comes back to Sri Lanka because actually we import only some agrochemicals like fertilizer and weedicides, and every rupee we earn in tea, 70% goes directly to the workers because they are all labor related costs. In tea production, 70% is the highest cost component is labor, 15% is material. So if the more we export, the more foreign revenue will be retained in Sri Lanka as a part of that earning, and of that retention, more money will circulate into local economy, and it will help the people and the communities and our local economy unlike any other commodity, because for every rupee we earn, 70% is plowed back into the workers as salaries and emoluments, and 90% comes back, more than 90% comes back to the Sri Lankan economy to circulate within our country. So that's where the plantation industry operates, mainly for tea and rubber.
This brings an end to our industry roundup on the plantation sector. Thank you, Mr. Rajadare, for your valuable time and insights. Stay tuned for our next update.